And Kate, how about you? Vernon was telling me about his journey. Tell me a little bit about yours.
Well, I was raised high church Episcopalian.
Oh, interesting.
Proper cathedral with all the stuff. And yet, talked to trees from the day. I can't remember not talking to trees. Played in the trees. They were my forts. I had little tiny creatures that I would set up camps with, and also spent a lot of time in the mountains of Idaho as a child, learning about forest stuff and the way children would do, and in the rivers and in the creeks and things. And so the disconnect from the earth that is required for all of the high church stuff for me was something I could never quite bridge. And the disconnect from being woman and the high church stuff, which was also a big bridge that I could never quite get across. And so I just kind of went neutral for many years. And then you never really go completely flat. There's that constant voice saying, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And I finally paid attention. And I started looking at and reading about and being aware of the need for the absolute acceptance of all that is woman in a way of life, because woman is life. And so once I came to a path that said, yes, you have a God that looks like you, it was just bursting. It was a door opened, and I just stepped through and went, well, duh, of course. Why was this so complex? Why was this so hard? And it allows me to bring a lot of what was also a lot in my early training, which is a lot of Native American tradition, and that comes just right straight in. And so where I can walk where the male and the female, it isn't even male-female. The creator is also a spore former. It's a seed maker. It's a thing that divides and does its little wiggly thing in separate directions. It has to encompass all things. Nothing can be excluded, or it's not the creator. And so once I was there, I was like, oh, here I am. And here we all are.
And here we all are.
And here we all are.
Now, the both of you, each of you, and together, you have had experiences of seeing, feeling, sensing.
Oh, yes.
What?
Yes.
Tell me about that. What are you seeing or feeling or sensing?
Well, this house seems to be a draw point for entities.
Has it always been, Vernon?
Yeah, it has always been.
And how long have you been here in this
I've
home?
been here since 1996.
Wow. Okay.
But from the day that I moved in, there has always been indications that there was some entity moving through. I've had the wall hit from the back side hard enough to move the pictures on it.
Whoa.
I've had doors and the closets, cabinets over here slammed shut and opened and slammed shut. And we have, well, the people that have seen her say that she's a Native American dressed woman that moves through the far end of the house.
So all of these noises and experiences you believe might be from this one entity, and it's a female who is Native American?
Well, I believe that there's also some others that have come with her.
Oh, okay.
And then since my diagnosis, I have had several incidences where things have occurred that I believe are metaphysical or spiritual.
Well, let's go. What were you going to say, Kate?
We've watched a lot of the TAPS
Yes.
fellows who go out, and I like the way they work. They're not, let's go find ghosts. They really want to understand what's going on, and they'll debunk a lot of stuff. But they talk and they educate about different things, which I really like. And so one of the things I've picked up on is the concept of the residual. The lady, we call her the lady, is always going in one direction, and this house does not belong here. It does not exist for her.
Oh.
She's in a different time. And so in a way she's simply a residual memory of a path that this woman would take. The old river is right over here. There was a river at one point that came down into the lake.
Oh.
That's gone, and part of it's in our backyard. And so we just think she's on her way to the river.
Oh,
and
my
she doesn't see us. There is no harm. There's no fear. She's just on her way. And if I stood in her path, she'd go right through me because I'm not there for her.
Right.
And the walls of the house are.
Oh,
and
my
and knowing that is we just kind of wave.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice,
Oh, how sweet. How sweet. Now, Vernon, when were you diagnosed and what were you diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed in February with colon cancer with an involvement of the liver and possibly a lung.
Wow, already. With your first diagnosis, there was all of this metastasis.
Stage 4.
Stage 4.
Stage 4. So there is, in effect, no cure for it. We tried an aggressive chemotherapy, which had little or no effect at all.
Huh.
In fact, it may have spread a little during this time period. But what it has done for me is shown me that the belief system that I have chosen to follow, Wicca, is the right one for me. That the things that I have learned and experienced that are rituals, in effect, put me in touch, closer in touch, with deity than many of the other paths. Now, these other paths, I believe, are valid for the person that are on them, but not for me. So I'm able to look at these and understand more about how Creator works and how these concepts of the afterlife, of reincarnation, of the alternative healing really do apply, and we can use them. And one of our beliefs in our line of thinking is that we can, well, it's hard to put in words, that we are guided and guarded by our spirit guides, and that they are here with us now, and always have been for that matter, but that we can actually get in touch with them and have them help us in our path or in our walk, so that we don't need to walk around with any sort of the word is faith, but with what I have received during this time period is not faith, but knowledge. I know this to be true, at least for me, and that I can draw this information. The fear is gone because I know that Creator is there. That Creator is going to provide the strength and the help and to me that I need to come through this. So.
And I think when one walks a path that is broad, that and Vernon and I aren't even on the same path. Everyone walks his own path. That's called free will. That's what we do. But in the walking in the general direction and in the general way that Vernon and I walk, we have a very broad acceptance of possibility of teachers. There are many, many teachers. There are myriad teachers out there. And for example, the one that I'm living with right now is the bird woman. And the bird woman is, I never thought about the bird woman. I didn't know about the bird woman until it was before he was diagnosed. I had a vision, and I call it a dream vision because it was a dream that was so powerful that I can still see the glint of light on the feathers. I can still smell the smell of it. But an enormous bird came down and landed, and I mean, her eye was this big around. I mean, it was huge and blackish green, and it shimmered. And she, birds have their eyes on the side of their heads, so she kind of looked at me with one eye and said, "Make my mask. You will dance my dance." And there's no whining.
And there's no
whining.
whining.
And I went, okay. And she has been my teacher in this whole time, and it was right after that he was diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And so she is my teacher to simply hold the bowl, be there. No whining. You simply stand, you hold, you care for, you are there. It won't last forever. It's incredibly deep and very powerful. Mm-hmm. And then you'll be doing something else. But for now, this is what you do, and you don't do much of anything else. And you don't, complain about it, because I say so. And this face, I thought, where have I seen her before? Who is this person? I looked up Bird Woman, is what came to me, and I looked her up on the internet, and there she is, the Bird Woman of Mesopotamia, is one of the oldest goddesses known. She's scratched on the little scratchy cave drawings in Mesopotamia. And she was the bone cleaner. She is the claw scratcher. She's the one who separates you from the thing that you want, that you think you need.
Oh.
And she will help you separate from that.
Oh, my goodness.
So she's my teacher. And I've made her mask, and I keep her, and I talk to her. And as a friend of mine pointed out, this is the dance. So that was my first real indication that something enormous was happening.
Yeah, it was a waking dream. You know that you're dreaming, but it is so profound you might as well be awake. And I've always believed that there was more to us than just this physical body. But one night when I was asleep in the bedroom, my sister-in-law, who has just had a triple bypass, came to the door. Now, she's still alive, but she's not out of the woods yet. She could have complications at any given time. And she brought my mother with her. And
your mother
my mother, my father, and my younger brother are all dead. But she brought my mother first, then she went back and brought my father and then my younger brother. And I'm thinking, well...
And remember, she went out to get me, and then we couldn't get back in?
Right.
That's what you told me.
Right.
Oh.
We couldn't get back in.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And it was just as real. I could reach out and touch her. And then I woke up, but they were still there. They were still there. And they were standing at the foot of the bed, just as solid and just as real as you are sitting there. And the reason my wife couldn't come back in, and my sister-in-law, is it's not their time.
Oh.
It's not their time. So I interpret that to mean that it's close for me. And we just had a very, very informative, lovely chat that I don't remember. All I know is that it was full of peace and love and understanding about this whole process of dying. And then the time came for them to go, and they did. So that's probably the most profound vision. It's more than a dream, it's a vision
Right.
of what is to be. So this whole concept of fear about what's next has gone away. It's.
Did you ever have that fear, Vernon?
Did I ever have that fear? No.
But it has not come as you feel like your time is nearing. The fear hasn't arisen. In fact, you feel
All
calm?
I have felt is the beauty and the wonder and the excitement of this whole process. That there is such a deep love from Creator that you can't possibly see anything except the beauty of it. The joy of the whole thing. It's just really overwhelming. There's a TV program on called Ghost Whisperer.
Yeah.
There's several of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this whole concept of crossing closer than anything I've seen, where the person who has died just disappears. And that's how this is. I have, in my meditations, seen a beautiful, beautiful light, but as you approach it, you get closer to crossing yourself. So there may be a light for you to see and go to, there may not, but they have it very, very close about where the people who are ready to cross go. It gets so very complicated. There's so much that I would like to say that I don't have the words for.
And I think that's fairly common, is that it's very hard to discuss in words things that are infinite, that have no boundaries.
Very good point. Our language is based on a three-dimensional world.
Right.
And you're talking about dimensions that are beyond our
Right. No words for it in our language to describe the beauty of this whole process. One of the books that we have said that our crossing is dependent upon our fear of life. Just how do we handle life that we have already lived? Just do we have a great deal of fear, or do we understand that there's nothing to fear from Creator?
That, I think, is a very good point. The whole, and here again, this is a big and deep philosophical difference that in the path that we have, in that there is no place that is not Creator. Therefore, that dichotomy of heaven and hell cannot exist, because there can be no place where there is no Creator. And the only word that we have to describe Creator is love. And so when one passes, crosses over, dies, whatever word you choose, there's no way that can be anywhere but in that love. It can't be otherwise. And so because of that, the fear really, and the tragedy and the heartbreak and all that stuff for you, if I may quote you, is that he has to leave me.
Yes.
Right.
It's not what's going to happen to him. He's cool. He's fine. And that's what he tells people. He is fine. His body's a wreck. He is fine.
Yes.
And that's the barrier to crossing, is that he has not yet reconciled the fact that he has to go without me.
Right.
That's the walking. That's the walk you have to take.
Yeah, I notice from the literature that we have, I noticed the changes in me, in my physical body, that they have outlined in this booklet that we have. And it's actually kind of fun to see where I'm at on the chart, so to speak.
What do you mean, a chart? What are you talking about?
Well, we have a booklet here called Gone from My Sight.
Huh.
It's from hospice.
It's from hospice, written by a hospice nurse, that she has taken the major points of what happens to you physically as this process continues. For instance, eating. I don't eat particularly much anymore. And sleeping. I could close my eyes now and go to sleep. Things like that accelerate and become more prominent. And finding where I am on this chart, well, am I sleeping more or sleeping less? Is my appetite back yet? Is really kind of fun.
What color are my toes?
Right. But one thing that we have learned, and that applies to the Reiki as an alternative source of healing, is the energy that we draw from the universe. Now, if there's only one God, and God created everything, He created the energy that we draw on. So people ask us, well, how do you know where that energy is coming from? It might be evil energy. Well, how can it be evil if it comes from Creator? And so we try to explain that to them, but they can't get over the hook that there is a source of evil, and they don't understand that all the energy comes from Creator. So when we use it, we are using the energy that is in all of us, that with the proper training, the proper insight, all of us have the ability to draw the energy to heal ourselves and those around us who ask.
That's not to say there's no evil in the world.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And there's that kind of, that's a charge sometimes that's made that, oh, well, you're just in la la land because you think there's no evil. Yes, of course there is. And where does it come from? And the only source of evil is the human mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dogs are not evil. Birds are not evil. Oceans are not evil. Mountains are not evil. Stars are not evil. They are natural. They do what they do. And sometimes it's inconvenient for one another at any given point. But they're not evil. It's humanity that has created the graspingness and the neediness and the ego-oriented gimme mind that says I have the right to do what I want and I have the right to take away from you what I want. And that's the battle. Therein is the battle. But the energy for that comes into that and creates that is still pure energy, and it's absolutely neutral. It's how you use it.
It's how you use it. Oh.
And that's the free will piece.
Oh.
There has been so much anger and hate in the world from the first caveman till now that it has kind of pulled together into a life force of its own. And people will do things that just by how they feel. For instance, Wicca believes that it's possible to cast spells. And the idea is that you don't cast an evil spell or one that would harm someone. If it harms no one, you can do what you will. So we can't sit down in the sight of Creator and cast a spell that would possibly have you sprain your ankle. But there is enough evil out there. Well, there's enough.
Well, we should not.
We should not.
One can.
But we shouldn't.
But we really believe that always comes back to bite you.
Right.
And so who needs that? So we don't do
If
that.
we hurt others, we hurt ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And in Wicca it's 3 times.
But
You know.
people,
Oh.
You know, if I'm, for example, if I wanted the job position and there was somebody else ahead of me that was probably going to get it, and I was greedy enough to think that, well, maybe if she had a car accident or got sick and I could have it, and that happened, then that whole business of standing in her path, stopping this woman's natural path, is so out of line with the way things are supposed to flow that I'm going to wind up in a bad state. I'm going to do the job badly. You know, I'm going to be upset about it enough deep in my soul that I'm going to do something to myself. You know,
Because it deters your own path?
because it deters my own path. If that is, I have every right to compete for something, but if I'm not the one who's supposed to have it, I'm supposed to bless the person who gets it and get out of the way.
Uh-huh. Because there's
Because I've
something
got
else
something
for you.
else to do that I didn't know about yet, and my job is to find that other thing that I'm supposed to be doing.
And speaking of other things to do, you use the energy. You are a Reiki master.
Yes.
So how did that come to be? How did you become a Reiki master? What was part of that journey?
You know, I don't really know. I took initial training with Nancy.
Before
My first
Vernon was
teacher.
ill?
Oh, way back,
Way
way
back.
back, way back, before we were even married. And I had a lot of Reiki done. And now, at this point, I've been doing it long enough and have, you know, been with other people and taken enough courses, and then you start kind of just moving on your own, because in the Wicca circles we use energy in a very different way, but we use energy so we get used to kind of playing with it, and I'm also a hypnotherapist, so I also, as we say, play in the subconscious mind a lot, and I have put those two together in what I call Alpha Reiki, in which the Reiki is done with the person in the trance state, so they can visualize the energy themselves, and they can also visualize the insides of their own bodies in metaphor as well as in reality, and see the energy and where it's not going and where it's not doing the work, and find the blocks and look at them and weigh them and measure them and say, well, what do you want to do about that? Do you want that area to continue to be blocked? You can do that. Or do you want to take a look at that block and move it and let the energy go in there? And it's amazing what does occur. Some people want the energy, but they don't want they still want the problem.
Can't let go.
They're not ready to let go of that. Most of the time, once that energy goes in, it feels so good that the block, they can let the block go. And the block can be very strange things. I mean, we've removed grandfathers out of elbows, violins out of the shoulder.
Grandfather's clock one
My
time.
grandfather's clock was in the way. A friend of ours had a huge Chinese, big wood and bronze Chinese gate, massive moon gate right across here, and we just opened it the least little bit. And that was interesting. But he wasn't able to open it. He wasn't ready to open it completely yet. So these are things that are interesting, and that's the one drawback for me with Reiki, is that with regular Usui Reiki and the other variants, is that the person receiving the Reiki is very silent, and they're not always aware of exactly what's going on in their body. And I do like our people to be aware.
And that's what you do with your Alpha Reiki.
Yeah,
Right,
because they're
the
aware.
alpha-
They can direct it, and they're aware,
Uh-huh.
and they're very much a part of the process.
Well, the Alpha Reiki allows them to tell Kate just exactly where we have put the energy level at, and whether it has gone in and filled that trouble spot. And the Reiki healer supplies the energy for Kate to direct to that spot. So,
And we'll get 2 or 3 people on a person doing the Reiki, and then I'll also be doing the chat. There's a
right.
kind of chat that goes with that. It's hypnotic work. So.
Unlike normal Reiki, Alpha Reiki allows the person to participate in their own healing. And that gives a depth of understanding and meaning to it that you don't get with what is normally considered Reiki. I mean, Reiki works without the Alpha, but the Alpha, we believe, is much deeper and a shiny or a short healing than without it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now, have you, Kate, worked Alpha Reiki with Vernon?
Yeah.
Have the two of you done
There is
this?
the other saga.
There
That's
is
the
the other
other
saga.
part of what's happening here.
Okay.
And if I may tell that story, years ago, several years ago, Vernon and I and my sister and her husband went to England, Ireland, did the thing, stayed in the places, viewed the things, went here, went there. It was wonderful. And went a lot to the stones and the stone circles, and went up to Skara Brae, which is this ancient place up there in Scotland and what have you. And one of the places on the way is a place called Newgrange. And we got back, and Newgrange is this huge covered ancient thing in Ireland, and they don't quite know what it's for, but it's
They call it a
beautiful.
burial
They
mound.
say it's a burial mound, and there's a museum there. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful place to go. You go in an 80-meter stone hallway to the central place that's all sort of squished down. And there's a long story about that, and in fact, I've been documenting our saga.
Wonderful.
Because we came home, and about a year later, Vernon had a stroke. And so we were doing some Reiki with him after that, just to kind of help him through that. And my friend Sophie and I were doing some Reiki with you, and you were at the end of it, you just said, "We're going back to Ireland."
no.
And it was
I have
just,
to go
it
back
was
to
it was not a discussion. That's the way. And I said, "Oh, okay, it's fine with me." And what that was that he had taken what's called a spontaneous past life journal, and he had gone back to Newgrange, but he had gone back to Newgrange about 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And so he was talking about the sights and smells and everything that was there. Well, I knew what was going on, and so I started working with him, and we started saving for the next trip. And we've got all these trips where he would go back to Ireland in different times, and we could chronicle the ceremony, the history, the who was who, the where was where, and it culminated in he was a young man to be initiated as a priest, as the priest of Newgrange, what was known as he used to be the shaman, he was to be the big guy, only he got sick. And on the day of the ceremony, part of his job was to get up out of the group of students, walk up and enter Newgrange. And he couldn't get up, could not get up. He was so fevered. They brought him out on a pallet, hoping that he could get up, and he couldn't do it. And the priest had to choose a second run. And that failure has played through his whole life, even into this life, where his legs have always been weak. And there's just a whole bunch of other pieces in there. So when we went back to Newgrange,
In this life?
in this life,
For the second time?
for the second time, we went back there. We stayed for 2 weeks in Dublin, and one of our days we went out to Newgrange, and we had done a ceremony beforehand to make sure that anybody who saw us would find something else more interesting to see.
We became invisible.
And we became basically invisible. We held ceremony there outside of one of the big stones outside of Newgrange. And we went in on the tour. I had a sacred bundle of treasures to be blessed in Newgrange. We walked in, and he walked in as a priest. And he initiated me as third-degree priestess there. And he came out and gave the blessing that was supposed to have been given at the time, that was never given to Ireland. It now has that blessing. Now, we have continued Reiki up until fairly recently. Right now, it's not so good because his body can't take the energy.
I can't draw the energy that's required for Reiki.
Yeah.
I can for other things, like the ceremony we're going to have this evening. I'll draw part of the energy for that, but drawing it for the healing in Alpha Reiki is just beyond my capability right now.
So what has happened, and what I knew then, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this before, but our friend Bonnie, who's a card reader, said to me, when you get back from Newgrange, be aware, because his soul's purpose will have been fulfilled. And I knew that, and I agreed with that. And when we got back is when he began to start losing weight. He started going downhill a little bit. Oh, well, he was diagnosed with diabetes. Oh, okay. But no matter what we've done, just constantly losing weight, a little fatigued, stopped driving, stopped carving, stopped. And then we went in and we had that diagnosis. So I think that's true. When your soul's purpose is done,
Yeah.
time to go, And not that we're happy about it, but I think that's a very important piece. And I've been documenting this all the way through, and we'll be coming out with it. It's a book called The Ghosts of Newgrange.
Oh.
And it's about that, and there's just a whole lot of details about that are just magical. Just magical.
The upside to the whole thing, although I haven't really found a downside yet, is that it has given us a better understanding of the people that we're working with. We've had people come to the house and talk about this with things that they don't understand, and they'll ask me the question, and apparently what I say strikes a chord with them, because they go somehow satisfied with what we've done. And we're kind of jumping all over the place here a little bit.
Well, it sounds to me like you have been a priest, Vernon, in your own right.
Yeah.
In the way that you have lived your life and taught all along the way.
Yeah.
I
think that's
What was your career?
I worked for 30 years for Boeing as a machinist.
Interesting.
But in a time, I also worked as a as a teacher's aide at the grade school. And I taught karate for a number of years. And we have had quite a bit of experience of teaching things that impact people's lives.
We've taught the Wicked classes.
We've taught the Wicked classes. We have given teachings at our medicine wheel tour, or circle, and we touched a lot of people there also. They told us later on, several classes later, how things had changed from them, or for them, after we did our teaching. And
so you take that spiritual energy with you in everything you do.
And one of the classes, I really stepped into it in that we had been talking or studying the tarot cards, and one of them was the Emperor. And I listened to the people talk in the circle afterwards about giving away their power, about having no effect. And it just made me angry. It made me so angry that I literally saw red, and I just started to talk. And
that was a dicey night.
Because after I finished, it was totally quiet, and people started to talk, and they were very, very angry with me because I had been talking about them stepping out of their own power and letting somebody else tell them what and why and how, and that I couldn't conceive of anyone doing that. And they just came down on me like a ton of brick.
Because it's not always polite to be powerful. It's not always nice to be powerful. And if, as a child, you are powerful, it can be life-threatening. And especially girl children learn to put their power away as young children. And he basically told them to, no whining, pick up your stick. Time to get powerful again.
Use the power. One thing I remember telling them is that I couldn't conceive of a situation where the energy of the woman was given away, that when the women just throw their power away, then a man has no chance. His power is not what it should be, not what it could be. That basically, he's only half of what a man can be if the woman gives her power away like that. That without her, we're nothing. Well, after they chewed me out royally, we went back the next week because I felt that if I didn't go back, anything I had said was of no effect. It was basically worthless. And they started to tell me how during that past week they had picked up their power and applied the power and the authority of the emperor to what they were doing and how they were living. And it was just the reverse of what had happened the week before. So, and that's pretty metaphysical. That's not something that you do just to be doing. That's something that happens, that comes from Creator, from Spirit, from the guides and your guardians that tell you what to say. I couldn't possibly have written that down. And all I could do was just sit there.
That is wonderful.
It was really, and they had an honoring for me later that was just outstanding. I can't even begin to describe what they did.
An amazing cycle where they were so angry, and then what you had said somehow settled inside, internalized, and then they came to honor you for shaking them up.
That's exactly it.
And finding a new way of being with their power. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I was afraid that I had caused a lot of damage. But apparently it worked out well. They're still talking about it. They call it that night.
Oh,
But
that's
I think
wonderful.
that's part of the lessons that we're learning here, is we have so little time for anything but honesty and love. There's no time left. You know, we have what, 60, 70, 80 years on this planet, and the first 20 you're just trying to find your feet.
Yes.
You know, so all that other stuff. Now, granted, that's part of the wisdom of old age. Is you look back and go, oh, oh, I'm sorry. But that would be, it is our hope, and it's also the hope in the therapeutic work that I do with clients who are younger, is to help them hold up a mirror and go, how magnificent is that person? How unbelievably magnificent. Let's get there. You know, who is that person? I want to know. I want to know about that person. Whereas so oftentimes they come with that personality in shambles in a bag, you know, and say, fix it. It's like, well, you're going to do the fixing. I can ask you some questions. Might make a suggestion or two, but we don't heal anybody. Reiki doesn't, the Reiki practitioner heals nobody. The doctor has never healed anybody. You heal yourself. All we do is open the doors to that, because healing has to come from within. And that's what you've known all your life as a teacher. And
So how do you say goodbye when you're in this place that the two of you are in? You have that sense of knowing, but you're...
How do you say goodbye? I don't know.
we don't know yet.
I don't know.
We haven't figured that out yet.
I think that there are a few more things that we have to do, like what you're doing here. That the one thing that I hope can come out of this is that we can continue to teach the power of love and of spirit, and that what I'm experiencing doesn't need to be feared, but to be looked at and used for an uplifting to a higher plane, to know the depth and the love of Creator. And that's my hope, that what we're doing will spread to other people through this, that how I'm being affected will be of help to other people. And it's, but how do you say goodbye?
Do you feel like you have lived together in past lives? Did you know each other?
Absolutely,
Yes.
we believe we have.
You knew each other. So
Yeah.
this is something you've done before.
We've done it before, but never willingly.
Aha.
And one is never willing to say
Yes.
goodbye unless one is like,
Yeah. Go.
which has happened too. But that's another husband, another life. But we were together as children. I was
In this life?
no.
Oh, no.
No,
Previous
in a
lives.
previous life, I was quite fancy schmancy, and my family was sort of, and his was not. And we were separated. They figured out we were way too friendly. We've been married 6 years, come September, and we've known each other for almost 20 years, and we have never had a fight. Or even an argument. We just never have had an argument. And I know that there are other therapists who sit around and go, that's very interesting, a little bit better, check this one out, there's got to be a deep problem here. But the fact is that we just start the discussions about something before it becomes an argumentative situation of I want, he wants. And by the time we get to a resolution of what we're going to do, what color we're going to paint it, how we're going to have dinner, where we're going to have dinner, whether or not the chair goes here or there, whatever people fight about, it's resolved because it's like chicken soup. You can't go wrong. Sometimes you get a little more chicken, sometimes you get a little more soup, but it's always good. So that's a problem in that our past lives, I think, have always been that way. And we just were both of us single, and we thought, well, why is it all so complicated? Why don't we just get together and make it simple? So we did, and
It's very simple.
and we are now with our first enormous challenges. How do I tell him, yeah, you can go, goodbye, without breaking his heart? And how does he tell me, hey, I'm really sick of this. I'm so ready to go, goodbye. Too bad you can't come. I'm having a great time. That's difficult. We don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
We just don't know how. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Now, there'll come a time when I'm just too tired. That my body will not sustain the effort of still being here. And at that point, I will go.
And there will come a time when I am so sick of this body being my husband, instead of the one who went hiking with me and went to Ireland and went out to the Devil's Tower and all that stuff, that I'm going to say, okay. But the problem is, it's the heart-to-heart that's not the least bit damaged.
I want to tell her about the cats.
And I want to tell her about the owl.
Oh, yes. One class we go to is a tarot class by Bonnie Hosenbach. And
He said changing the subject.
I noticed that.
Yes.
Well,
It's all
It's
good.
all connected.
It's all good.
it's all
good.
connected. This is from the metaphysical point of your being here,
Yes.
is that we had a feeling of, and this has been since my diagnosis, you get very sensitive to the people around you. If you were empathic before, you become more so now. You can tell what the people are feeling, how they're feeling, if they're happy, sad, sick, whatever. But we felt that there was some sort of animosity towards us here at this house, that they were either jealous or they were afraid of what we could do, or of being known for who they were from our tarot class. So we're talking to one of the other people in our circle, our Wicca circle, and he said, well, why don't you call cats? Well, the strange thing is that we had been experiencing cats in the house for a number of weeks.
What do you mean experiencing cats in the house?
Looking down and seeing a cat run by.
Not your own cat,
But
not your pet.
with our own cat asleep right there. And at night, one night in particular, I remember my cat jumping on the bed and climbing over me and nestling down beside me, and my heart sinking because I really don't like him to sleep there because he has some bad habits. So I looked down and there was no cat there.
No.
And so I said, oh, well, okay, you can sleep here. And with that, another cat jumped on, and I could feel the bed covers pulling as he slept on the other side of me. And that's the kind of thing about when we talk about experiencing cats. These are astral cats.
We would open the door, or in the morning I'd open the door and a cat would run by just fast enough that I could see the back legs and the tail and that it was gone.
And we both separately agreed. One of them is a yellow cat and one of them is a long-haired gray cat.
Right.
So when you see it, does it seem in the same way that your family members came and talked with you and they seemed so real? These cats seem that real?
They seem that real.
Uh-huh.
And then they're gone.
And then they're gone.
We just get a flash. But in that flash, it's as if our real cat runs by.
Oh my goodness.
So we did a ceremony that for Bas, the Egyptian cat goddess, to come and bring some of her children along to stay at the house. And from that time on, the incidences of the cats in the house increased a great deal.
And their job, you see, was to eat those little negative mice that run around.
And that part of it went away. But the cats stayed.
And that's fine.
I'd be going to sleep in the other room, and I'd lay back and I'd close my eyes and I'd feel them walking on the bed covers. I could feel them walk alongside my leg or stepping over them. And I would look to see where Charlie or Sam was at. That's our cat. And he wouldn't be there.
Well, the other night I came out and I had left Sam asleep on the chair in my office. I saw him there. Good night, have a nice night. I came out and sat down in this chair, which was over here. And as I sat down and just closed my eyes, I felt him jump on the arm of the chair and then jump on the back of the chair, and the chair went back with his weight.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't there.
Wasn't.
There's no cat.
No.
And it's if there's no fear involved with that, it's just like, well, they don't eat much, and I never have a litter box to change.
And are they taking care of the?
There is no negativity in this house. It tries every once in a while, but we don't have time for that.
Oh,
it's
my
gone.
goodness.
And then our friend Mark, who does see astral beings, came into the house sometime in March. He said, "You know, you have an owl on your house." I said, "How big is the wingspan?" He said, "Well, it starts at that roof."
The full length of the house?
Yeah, it was an astral owl, which of course is a harbinger of death. And it's also a wisdom, deep wisdom bird. Very silent wisdom. So,
That was in March, and this is July.
This is now the end of July. The other night, I had my eyes closed, and there was this bright light in my face, and I opened my eyes, and there was nothing. And then just as I was closing my eyes, I could feel it again, and there was a big orb just over his ankles, and it was a guardian just watching, just waiting. They're waiting. They're coming to welcome him.
Yes.
And he will be welcome. But it's just going to take a little while.
Right. There's still something left that we need to do, or we'll have the opportunity.
We don't know what it is yet.
We don't know.
Well, I'm incredibly honored and grateful that you were so willing to share your stories with me and with those who are going to be touched by all that you've shared. And I know it has been important and meaningful for you to be able to share this.
Yes. Sorry.
And it's that collaboration of spirit that you are engaging in and have engaged in your whole lives is going to be recorded now
Yes.
for
I really like
time
that.
to come. Yeah, I love that
We certainly
too.
thank you for coming. This whole filming project, I think, is worthy. It's worthy. It's easy to marginalize the dying because it is such an experience that nobody can experience it.
They don't want to talk about it.
Until you're there. They can't experience it until you're there.
But they don't want to
And-
talk about it even
And
before
they don't-
dying. That's right.
Right, that's true. And so I'm hoping that this will, I don't know, chum the waters. It'll do something to kind of help lower that fear barrier, or that something barrier that keeps people from enjoying the time. That this time is so unique. It is a unique experience. It is not like anything we've ever done. And so we're inventing ourselves every day.
Right.
Now obviously, Vernon is not the first person in the world who's died.
Right.
Nor will he be the last. But this is his first time, and this is my first time in this lifetime as such a deep caregiver. So this is an experience for us to simply have and to learn from. And so we're very grateful that you've come to hear it, to hear about it.
What a blessing it's been for me. Now, do you have any last thoughts or anything we haven't talked about that you want to share?
The only thing I can think of is that just open to the Creator and know that love is there, that the help that we need is there if we will simply ask and listen. So many times we ask for something, but we don't listen to the answer. And that if we do that, that it will become apparent that we're not alone, that we do have the help we need, that the love that fills the universe is part of us, and we can use that. All we have to do is ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.